effectively given opening statements already, so we'll just go right into questions when we get to good from Brad in the back. Good, good. All right. Who wants to ask the first question?
I was about to say, we're done already? My kind of deal. Let's go, Coach. You got to recruit.
We'll go with Matt in the back.
Hi, Hannah. I'm Matt Appeal with That 5 here in town. Welcome to Memphis. Something you hit on in the presser that I want to know a little bit more about. The grind that it takes to go from JUCO and NAIA to D2. How has that influenced your journey, and how do you plan on continuing to carry that now that you're at this level?
Yeah, I think it's influenced my journey. One, when you're at those levels, when you have your hands in everything. But the roster reconstruction, right? Like, it's not just assembling the players, but then when you assemble the talent and then you have success, that means we teach our culture like a curriculum from day one. And I think, just having that experience of, if we had 4 returners or if we had a lot of sophomores that year at junior college, and we ended up having a lot of times, we would have 10, 12 new players every single year. So I think that experience has been really valuable, especially in today's landscape.
Got it.
You said the phrase "people connected," people that care, people that don't care. They know about. Where does that phrase come from? Can I talk about that more, because it is something that in the new landscape of college basketball, it is tough to kind of connect with new players every year.
Yeah. To your point, I think when there's new faces, we have to be even more intentional about getting those faces out in the community so that people can meet them. My experience, again, I've had a lot of new faces, on different teams, but we've been able to get the community behind us from just getting out. And, whether you have a senior that's a transfer there for only 1 year, if she's out at camps, we're reading at schools, we're, really our kind of mantra is we don't say no, right? So we're going to outside of season, okay? In season, we have to be a little bit more selective, but any opportunity that we get out and to get those players connected, whether it's for that season or they're, here for their 4-year career, you just got to get them in front of those people and give them a chance to know them.
Greg.
Welcome, Coach. Greg Gaston. I'll do your games on ESPN+. My question for you is, you kind of talked about it a little bit in your introductory presser there. What is the one main reason, among many, Dr. Scott convinced you to come here and take this job?
Well, Dr. Scott didn't have to do too much convincing.
Thank you.
I wanted the job, and for the reasons that I said out there, but I know that this is a place that we can win. This is a basketball city. I think we have a fan base that's hungry for success. The city of Memphis, the state of Tennessee, the Southeast in general, has really good recruiting areas. We have the resources that we need to win, and so that was enough for me.
So Frank and then Joel.
Scott, for you,
Yeah.
when you were meeting with her, just what impressed you the most about her and your interaction?
Yeah, I think, I do a lot of research on coaches before we even get in the search process, and Hannah was somebody that was high on our list because she had won in the way she had won and where she had won. And I'll be honest, when I met with her, she's got this vibe about her that's real easygoing. And, I know Memphis is tough, and I know there's going to be pressure on her to win. And so we spent a lot of time talking about that, right? Can you manage that? Can you handle that? And I asked her one question, and her answer was right on the money. And at that point, I knew we had the right person. The junior college part matters. It matters in today's roster transition, right? And I think if I get the quote right, you can tell me, or if I get it wrong, you can correct me. But I think you said something like this when you met with Dr. Hargrave, that at junior college, winning creates the bond, cohesion, and in Division I, cohesion and chemistry create winning. And to know that and to have been through those cycles at various levels of college basketball, but the common theme was winning and developing young women, it just made it easy for me at that point to say, this is the person that I want to partner with to try to build this program back.
Coach Haden, Joel Haley with Memphis. What is your plan to recruit more commitment?
Yeah, we want to keep the best players in Memphis at home, right? If they have the talent to play here in the American Conference and help us compete for championships, then that's going to be our goal, is to not let them leave the city.
Jonah.
For both of you, if possible, I'm just curious when you look at the expectations for this program, obviously, like the resources there, the opportunity for growth is definitely there.
Yeah.
But obviously haven't been in the tournament in a long time. How do you, especially Dr. Scott, when you were interviewing candidates, how did you gauge kind of what you expected and what you want moving forward?
Yeah, I'll let Hannah go first. I want to hear how she's going to get us back to championships. So.
The American Athletic Conference is a very good league. There's a lot of talent. There's great coaching. It's a tough conference. But I think that this is, Dr. Scott and I talked about, there's two ways to get in that postseason, and so we want to be we want to have a competitive net to put us in a good position if we didn't win the tournament. But obviously, you know, the goal is to win the tournament and go to the NCAA tournament. Like that's going to be the goal and the standard.
Yeah, Jonah, I think you know we're resourced really well. I mean, we're sitting in a standalone, basically, women's basketball facility, right? We're in the lounge area right now. They have a nutrition area. Women's basketball has their own weight room that they use by themselves. They have their own facility that they share with volleyball 4 times a year. So when I looked at the infrastructure, it was present. I needed somebody who could win with less, because what I found at Memphis, and you saw this with Coach Huff, and right now I'm doing great because Coach Huff and Hana are both undefeated. So my track record's really good so far. But no, in all honesty, I mean, the infrastructure was there, so I needed someone who could take the infrastructure, articulate a plan to get us where we want to go. And literally, we finished 4-14 in the league last year, and I was talking to Hannah, I think yesterday in the lobby of the AOB, or the other day, and we finished 4-14. I mean, so this is not new for her. I think sometimes when you hire folks from winning programs or higher levels who don't understand the resource level and who haven't had to build the culture, as she talks about, like a curriculum, it's more difficult for them, even though they've won at other places. So she had the experience. And then you heard her talk in her press conference. She wanted to be in a city. She wanted to be in a place. Look, you all know in Memphis, if we're playing well, you guys love us and you love me. If we're not playing well, it's like I'm coaching every team and I'm the worst AD in America. You got to be able to deal with that here in Memphis, and you got to embrace it. And I just, after spending enough time with Hannah, I learned quickly that she has what I'll call the intestinal fortitude to be able to deal with that. Don't let her smile fool you. When she gets on the court, she's a different beast, and that's what I want. And that's what I want for all of our coaches. And Hannah, you know, she fit that mold perfectly.
We'll go Nick and then Casey.
Hey, Coach, welcome to Memphis. Nick Newell with the Dairy Council, the student publication here on campus. We've seen you interact a little bit on social media with Ben Hardaway and with Coach Huff, and I'm sure other coaches have reached out as well. What have those conversations been like, and have they offered you any advice in sort of coaching journey here at Memphis?
Yeah, I'd say probably advice similar to that tweet I described, right? You get what you give, and Coach Hardaway, you know, talked about this is the Memphis Tigers. It's a family, right? And all of us supporting each other. You know, offered his support. He said he might come to a practice, which I was really fired up about. But yes, Coach Huff reached out, and they've just been, you know, willing to be just resources in the transition. It's been awesome.
Hey, Coach, back here in the Casey with Channel 3 here in Memphis. Welcome. Where's maybe kind of, or how would you describe the identity that you want this team to take on, you know, coming into this season?
Yeah, we're gonna describe our team with relentless effort, togetherness, toughness, and discipline. Right, we talk about all the time effort and second effort. You know, those are things that you know, on the court, making plays and things like that. But discipline is doing the right thing all the time, regardless of who is watching. You know, togetherness, your connectivity. We're talking about trying to go to the tournament, right? Like you're getting in the conference tournament and you make it to the semifinals and the finals. Those teams are connected and they're together, and those are the teams that want to continue playing together and they want to extend their season. So, you know, in the landscape, whenever you're going to have a lot of new faces on the roster, some of that has to develop organically. It starts with recruiting, right, and getting the right character, that their relationships with each other will develop organically, and then it's the job of our coaching staff to be intentional about helping them build that so that we have that togetherness at the end of the year. And then toughness speaks for itself, right? Like we're going to be a gritty team defensively. Again, we're going to guard you. We're going to make it really, really tough on opponents. We were the #1 defense in the league last year, and that's something that I always hang my hat on, is the defensive end, because when we talk about controlling the controllables, you know, defense never has a bad shooting night. Defense travels, you know, so we do want to put points on the board, and we're going to do it as efficiently as possible. I'm really big on efficiency over pace, but we're going to hang our hat on the defensive end.
Jeff Calkins from the Daily Memphis. These are both for Ed, too. One is, you said you asked one question of her, and she nailed it, but you didn't say what it was. So
Yeah, of course Jeff would ask. You know what I mean? I love Jeff.
Generally, what can women's basketball be here? Like we see, you know, nationally, it's exploded. It you know, it gets equal billing at ESPN, the men's tournament. What should it be here, broadly speaking?
Yeah, so I'll give you the PG version of what I asked Hannah, because I'm a gentleman and she's a lady. But I straight up and down asked her, do you have that dog in you, right? And that we're going to need in Memphis. Because you see her. She's sweet. She talks really fast. Her and Haley, if you watch those two talk together, you can't get a word in. And you saw how when you asked the question about basketball, she lit up, right? That's what I got from her when I interviewed her. But after the interview, she called and left me a voicemail to articulate a couple other things that she wanted me to know about her candidacy. And I called her back and I said, look, Hannah, the one question I have for you is, do you have that dog in you that it's going to need to be successful at Memphis? And her response was, I am that dog, Dr. Scott. And I said, okay then. And I said, then let's go. It's time to roll. So that's the question, and that was the answer. And thank you, Jeff, because it tells me you pay attention to what I say, and I appreciate that. Look, I think we should be in the top 4 of women's basketball on an annual basis, right? There's injuries happen, roster turnover happens every year. I don't put win-loss totals on our coaches. I don't do it to Penny. I don't do it to Huff. I don't do it to any of our coaches. But based on this last year's metrics and what we know about NIL, we were probably second in the league in rev share behind South Florida. South Florida pours a lot of resources, as both Hannah and I know, into their women's basketball program. We have this beautiful facility that's, again, self-contained for women's basketball. And I forgot to mention it has a training room that only women's basketball gets to use. Hannah came in and saw the facility. She said, wait, this is ours? Like, who else uses it? And we're like, that's you. That's it. And so I think we have all the pieces where, Jeff, if we're not making the NCAA tournament, to give you a succinct answer, if we don't make the NCAA tournament on a regular basis, we should be in the WNIT, right? We should be playing in the postseason in women's basketball, and we should be better than we've been. The city deserves it, the university deserves it, and I can guarantee you that we have the resources behind women's basketball, as Hannah knows, for us to be able to do it. Otherwise, she wouldn't have taken the job at a place she doesn't think she can win. And that was really important to me, too. I asked her that. Do you think you can compete against these other coaches in this league with the resources we can provide you at the University of Memphis? And your answer was?
Yes.
There you go. All right? So it's sometimes it's more simple than you all think when you're going through the process, when you've identified all the intangibles.
It seems like you're taking over a similar situation to what you did at Georgia Southern. Just quite something. What was the biggest key or couple of keys to getting that program turned around so quickly?
It's getting the right mixture of personalities and the right mental makeup of the individuals in your locker room. That's quite simply the answer. Just to be transparent, we had very similar talent from year 1 to year 2. We had a huge turnaround, and our first staff meeting after we completed year 1 at Georgia Southern, going into year 2, I passed out a piece of paper to my staff, and it said, culture wins and culture kills. And we wanted to establish the right culture, again, have the right people in the locker room. I mentioned out there we want to recruit the best players who are also the best people. You're coaching 15 young women. You're always going to have 15 unique personalities. That's what makes it fun, as long as we're like-minded and we have the same priorities and the right character.
All right, thank you both.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Appreciate y'all.
Thank you.